Ah. Oh, hey guys, welcome back to the video. Today, we will be talking about a serious subject, but not really serious. It depends where you are, but it kind of is a serious subject. We'll be talking about ways or how to stop bullying. See, bullying is not okay. It's really not good for this planet and good for our economy. You see, with bullying is, if you're in bullying or not in bullying, you should still learn this about bullying. So, of course, bullying is most common when you're in school or, just in your life scenario. But before this video starts, I've got to say, I was once bullied. It's at school. I used to be bullied a little bit. When I was a young age, like maybe, third or second grade, when I was really young, I never really got bullied. I'm not really bullied anymore, and I'm not bullied anymore. And I got a lot of good friends and a lot of good people in my life. But back then, it was about my 5th grade, and of course I'm in 7th grade now, about 2 years ago. And I would call it back then, but not really back then. It was like, I didn't know about bullying back then, So the one thing that happened was, I'm going to not to say their names. There's 3, I'm going to call them just kid 1 or kid 2 or kid 3. I'm not going to say their names out loud because it may be offensive. But kid 1 was the main bully. He was main trigger, made me mad. Back then, I didn't know how to react to bullying. And now, when I grew up and matured up, I finally figured out how and figured out to prevent bullying. So, there's multiple stages we can talk about. But anyway, so he started bullying me maybe a quarter through the school year. And he had a good friend of his, I'm going to call him Kid 2. And he was also a bully to me. I would call him a bully to me. Separate, they were okay. They didn't really talk to me that much, but kid 1 more like triggered kid 2 to both bully me. So that really impacted in the school year. And so what happened was, sorry about that. Anyway, so what happened was kid 1 always teased me. That's stage 1. So stage 1, I would say, is about a tease. See, tease can be taken in 2 ways, Kids can tease, or it could be insulting to you. It could hurt your feelings. It depends how you are as a person. So tease could be, oh, look at your shirt, or hey, look at your pants, That could be an example of a tease, I would say. So tease, it depends who you are, could be insulting, Based on your background, it could be hurtful and mean to you. So tease, I would say number 1. My number 1 thing is to help with the tease. And this may not work to you, some you may be like, oh, this is never gonna work. My thing is to ignore, right? Ignore is one of the biggest things you could do with teasing. Because teasing, the only way that they're gonna be counteracted, well, there's multiple ways, but one of the biggest ways is to ignore. If you ignore them and act like you don't care, and you don't care what they're saying about you, of course, you may care inside, but if you ignore them and show that you don't care, they're just going to walk away. That's what always happens. So, at the beginning of school year, they would tease me about my shoes or about how, my shirt, how I looked, how ugly I was. And eventually, I just stopped paying attention. Of course, sometimes what happens is you try to go back at them, which is never, ever okay. If you ever try to go back at the person, it will always, 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 always lead back to hurting both you and the person's feelings. And you don't want to hurt your own feelings. You don't even want to hurt the person's feelings, even though he hurts your feelings. Right? The first stage I would say is to ignore. Just be like, if they say mean stuff, just don't even say anything. Don't say anything and just walk away. Now, I would say that this is an opinion only, right? This part right here. There's two ways. I think there is a tease and a roast. Now, to maybe your parents out there, you probably don't know what tease and roast are. See, tease is like, oh, look at your shirt. Oh, look at your shoes. That's what I think. Now, a roast is saying traits about him. Like, oh, those shoes are ugly. Oh, that shirt is ugly. Oh, your hair looks ugly. You know, that is, I would call a roast. What the roast is, a roast you should also ignore. Big thing about bullying is always ignore and then walk away. If you ignore and walk away, I think one of my old, he was a police officer, and he came to our school and he taught us about bullying, he taught us about all this stuff. And he said, ignore that foolish stuff. Just ignore it and walk away. They won't care, and they may stop bullying you, but then. Now, the big thing with bullying is it doesn't just happen once. You know, if this kid comes up to you one time and says, oh, look at your shirt, then is he bullying you? No. Bullying is a daily routine. So he'll come up to you daily and be like, oh, look how ugly this kid is, or blah, 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 about this kid, and it's not okay. Daily routine, see, if he did it one time, you should ignore it and walk away. If he's repeatedly doing it, then you get to the stage 2. Stage 2 is you want to tell a trusted adult. It could be a teacher, a parent, maybe even a good friend that's an adult. You know, at first I started telling my parents, I said, man, these kids are really being mean to me and I'm not really enjoying it. This is really hurtful to me. I started trying to ignore it, and it got to a level where I couldn't get past. So this is where stage 3 comes in. Stage 3 is where, see, this is when they start becoming big, right? They could either be physical or mentally very challenging. So a mentally one could be, you know, talking about your life, which is a big problem. They may say something about your parents, about your family, that could happen that really hurt you in the past. That's a big mental thing that it could really hurt your feelings. At that point, you need to get to adult. You need to get an trusted adult to take some action. That is very important. One thing is to never physical attack them. If you physically attack them, it will lead to a fight and it could lead to worse, right? That you don't want that. You don't want to get in a big fight. You know, in 5th grade, or back when I had this stuff, 2 kids, they're teasing, roasting each other about their back life. Guess what happened? They get in a fight. Suspended for 2 days. And you're like, oh, that's not much. It was bad. You never want to get into that. That will take you places you never want to reach. Alright, guys. You never want to reach. Alright, so that's a big theme. Never do physical attack and never cause a fight. You don't want to provoke a fight. You don't want to help a fight. You never want to do that. If you ever see someone in a fight, it's the one thing you need to do. Go up to a teacher or principal or whatever and tell them, this guy is punching or hurting or pushing this other kid. Can you please help me? And then they'll go over and help them out. It's a big thing. Now, back to the bullying part. See, physical attack could be pushing. So They go up to you and they're like, hey, you, I'm tired of you coming up into this school and you're making all these friends, and they started pushing you, attacking you, putting their hands on you, even touching you is not okay. At that point, you will need to go to a trusted adult. You need to walk away, ignore, and go to a trusted adult. It's a big thing about bullying. Big thing. Alright, so I'll go ahead and tell you my story, right? So, the first person, I would call it teasing. You know, it wasn't really big at first. You know, it was beginning of the school year, became big, and then he started roasting me. At that point, I didn't know what to react. Gotta be honest. I was confused. I was hurt. I came home from school either crying or sad. See, of course, I'm a big kid. I could, hang out for myself, but I'm like, I don't know what to do, and I was never bullied like this before. Eventually. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, so, at first it was just him, right? Then he met this kid named Alessio. Alessio was new to the school. I would call him the big dog, tough and big. And them two together, they would always, tell people. So kid 3 was one of my good friends. He's not I wouldn't call he's my best friend now, but we were good friends back then. And anyway, so what happened was kid 1 and 2 teamed up, right? They teamed up. And it got horrible. I wouldn't call it to stage 3, but it got bad for me. It got really bad. See, but these kids, they weren't like best friends. They're like, oh, so dude. At first they were best friends. I would call them best friends. They would hang out with each other. Then they started separating. I'm still hurt at the time. I don't ever near them. Kid 3 and me are trying to protect each other, and they started to separate, right? But then it got really bad for me. It was about maybe third quarter, maybe second, third quarter, middle of that. And so my teacher, he's been knowing about this, right? He's seen about this. He's not really taking any action because it hasn't gotten that bad, but there was one day. I think it was about field day, around that. And I was going to the bathroom. You had your backpacks because I think it was a water park day where they'd bring a bunch of slides. I think what they did in my school back then. But what happened was you had to take your backpack to the bathroom. I took my backpack. Me and kid 3 were hanging out with each other, and he for some reason got mad at me. I don't know if I don't really remember what happened or what caused it, but he got really mad. So kid 2 came at me. He pinned me against the pole. Started getting really mad. He was really mad. I swiped his hands off me and I walked away. Just like that. You know what he did? Went over to my backpack, kicked it as hard as he could. As hard as he could. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Dude, that's my stuff. He was like, I don't care, and he ran off. Guess who watched the entire thing? My teacher. Oh, was he mad? I'm not gonna go into details, but oh, he was mad, bro. But anyway, so that's the thing. No matter what, if you are in something with bullying or something like that, you are not alone. And don't feel scared about being like, Mom, I don't want to tell you about this. I don't want to explain it to you. I don't want to talk about this with you because this could lead bad. No. The number one thing, if it gets bad to physical or mental, stage 3, you need to tell an adult. Right? I've watched a couple movies. So there was this one movie where this kid would get in fights. He was like, oh, it's football. And, he never told his parents. I'm like, dude, that is not how you do it. If you tell your parents, you will be unbelievably better from this. It would be so helpful. You need to get an adult into this kind of thing. Alright. So continuing on, my teacher went up to him and was like, you're not gonna do that again. Right? You're not. I started telling my parents about this. And eventually, in the story, this new kid came in. Right? I became really good friends with him. And there was a couple other kids I became friends with. And kid number 2, to be honest, was really good friends with the new kid. He was really good buddies. Right? So I felt weird at first. It was really weird. Me and the new kid were like buddies. We're all like a group. And kid number 2 came in. I was just like, I don't know. I really talked to him about it. Me and kid number 2 talked about it, and he was like, dude, I'm so sorry for what happened. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry. And I hope you can heal from it. I was like, dude, really, thank you. Anyway, so kid number 1 was always a big thing. He always insulted me. He always got mad at me. Eventually, about 3rd quarter, maybe 4th quarter. This may not happen with you guys, but kid number 2, he grew up. He really matured. He realized, dude, this thing I'm doing to you, this kid, is horrible. Eventually, we became kind of friends. And kid number 1, you want to know what happened? He never changed. Me and kid number 2 were, talking and talking to each other. He was always insulting me, roasting me. And that's where it became really bad with kid number 1 and 2, right? Kid number 1 and 2 got mad at each other, right? They were like, oh, they got mad at each other, so what? It became pretty bad. Remember that fight I was talking about? Yeah. So what happened was, they were on the bus. They were on their bus because they said they were at the bus. They were arguing, fighting, screaming at each other at lunch, right? Me and kid number 2 were talking, and then they were like arguing at each other and like being mad at each other at lunch. They're sitting, 2 people. There's a person in the middle, 2 people. Kid number 1 went on him. Threw punch as hard as he could. He moved this time. Boom. Hit him. Started biting, punching, hitting each other. Face red after. They were mad. Eventually, kid number 1 got a black eye. Horrible. 2-day suspension. Horrible. And, you're like, oh, that doesn't matter. Guys, when you're young like this, you have to know the consequences. To you, 2-day suspension is like, okay, that's not that bad. It goes on your report, right? When you go get a job in the future, they'll see, oh, you got a fight in the 5th grade. You must be very, anger management. You may get angry fast. You may get mad at me sometime. You may argue with me. And that will hurt you for getting a job and going on in the future, right? So after that, me and kid number 2, we became, there's good friend and there's friend. We were a little below friend. See, we weren't really good friends because of the past. But when he really grew up, we became, more to friends than we were before. A lot more than friends than before. And then the school year ended, right? 6th grade, and that's what happened. One thing with that is, you should never feel alone. See right there. Never feel alone. Never. If you feel alone, that will hurt you and be stuck in yourself. Give you grief, maybe even depression. Reach out to someone, guys. Really do. They will help you get past this. Anyway, so guys, thank you guys so much for watching. And I know this was a little like, maybe stern today and like not really your type. But please leave a like down below. And I hope you guys use these strategies if you're in that situation or you have been in that situation, and just learn from this video. And yeah, guys, so see you guys